This is the dry and technical portion of the software side of the Stacklight video that I've posted up on my YouTube video. So I'm going to try and get through this pretty quickly. This is what the form will look like, or the one that you will get from the GitHub repository. Essentially, it's a VB.NET WinForms application. You have a label here that's the title of the form. Another label here just saying data received. Another label here just determining that this is station 1. This is a label. It's just text is set to NA, but it's actually called label signal. This will actually change, like in the video, to running, off, error, or idle or busy here. And the COM port select here, which this combo box or drop down box will be populated by all of your COM ports or things that are hooked into your computer via USB. So your receiver will come through here. This label will change to connected once you click start and connect it. And this is a rich text box just so you can see the data that's incoming. It's mostly used for debugging. So jumping into the actual code, at the very top here we have this imports functionality that's going to import variables and objects as well as some other code to handle I/O ports. You have to have this to do the rest of the code, so don't forget to include it. On our first private sub, this is called the load sub. So all of this code right here will all initiate when the program opens. So we have a try statement here, and all it's doing is it's declaring this variable array as a string for ports, and all it's doing is looking through all of your ports and populating those into an array of strings, and then you're going to do a for loop through each of those strings on the port and add them to that combo box, which is right here. So you see combo box.items.add port. From there, the combo box will be set to the selected index of 0 or the very top, and then if something goes wrong in this try statement, it'll pop a message box up saying no COM ports found, please plug in receiver and restart program. That's essentially just the most likely thing to happen, but if something fails, it'll give you this dialog box. For button 1, which is this button right here, the start button, what it's going to do is it's going to set the port name to this cbcom.txt. So if this is that combo box is empty and you try and set the port name, it's going to give you an error. So just keep that in mind. And then what it's going to do is it's going to take that serial port com and open it. And then that label is going to change to connected, that label that we talked about earlier. And so you can see the object down here. This is the SP-COM, or this is the serial COM connection. Make sure that you set your baud rate to 9600. If that's your baud rate, it is most of the time. And that's all you should have to do there. Going further in, we have this private sub, SP-COM data receive. So essentially this sub is going to fire upon the serial port receiving data. So once your receiver parses information to your computer, it'll fire this code. And all it's doing is it's taking a variable called read code, declaring it as a string, and it's setting that to whatever the text box sent to your, or the text that was sent to your device. So then we've also going to print that inside of this rich text box 1, and we're going to use an invoke method here. The reason that we're using an invoke method is because if you don't, you'll run into a multi-thread error, which I don't want to get into that, but just know that you have to use an invoke method to pull that data. And then we're going to hit this update text request read code, which is a private sub that's right down here. So this is essentially where all of the commands will happen that you want to include. So this first bit here is just making sure that you don't have any kind of a multi-thread or an invoke error. So it's just saying, hey, if that label signal it requires an invoke, then invoke it, and if not, just keep going down. So here we can see if the substring of the code at 1.1, so that text that's getting passed from your receiver into your computer, for example, we talked about it being in the video, station 1 green line, it would be 1 space G, and if it was station 10 red, it would be 10R. All this is doing is seeing if there is a blank space after the first character. So for example, if it's 1 space G, then if there's a blank between 1 and G, the program knows that this is a station number 9 or under, and if it detects anything other than that, it knows that it's going to be a dual numerical station, so it could be 10 space R for 10 red. So the next thing is just a long line of if statements on what you want to happen. So if the code contains 1G, then you're going to change that label signal text to running and you're going to color it green. If it contains 1Y, you know it's going to be idle and the color will be yellow. And the same thing for red, off, or error. So going through here you can see all those things. And then underneath here is the else statement. So if you have more than 9 stations, then you would put the same stuff here down here. It would just be, instead of if code contains, open 1 space G, would be if code dot contains open parentheses 10 space G or 11 space G, and then that code would fire down here. And then this is unnecessary at the end. It's just where I accidentally popped up a form. So let's go ahead and run this code and take a gander at exactly what it looks like. Here is the program, very simple. So here we can see we have COM1 and 3. My Arduino is currently connected to, let's take a look. I'm not 100% sure. I think it's COM3. I'm 90% sure it's COM3, but we can check. COM3 is correct, so we're going to come in here, back into our piece of our code, select COM3, click start. It's going to say connected, and now as your transmitter, you swap your lights around and anything, the station 1, this NA, will start to swap into what you've placed it as. Now, if you've watched my video and you want to get into the SQL portion of this, I might do a follow-up video for that, but that gets kind of complicated and in-depth on how to set up an SQL server and all that. But if you know how to handle SQL with .NET Framework anyways, you can just use that.